Bigfoot, Dogman, Jersey Devil, and others. Are they real? Figments of our imagination? Or the most cleverly disregarded reality of all time? Come into the cabin. Let's sit down and find out together. Hey, welcome back to the cabin. I'm Robbie.
Johnny.
Here's Johnny again. Hey, I worked it in quicker this time.
Yeah, well, Quaaludes have been outlawed, so.
Yeah, well. So how's it been going, Johnny? More animal troubles, or you getting stuff straightened out?
I got me a new baby.
Yeah, you told me you got you a new baby goat.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny that you talked about goats, seeing as what we're gonna talk about tonight.
Yeah, well, hopefully I don't have them on my property.
Yeah, I would not want to have this thing on your property. But this is either 49 or 50 episodes. So it would be kind of cool that we've had it on the intro since we started, and we hadn't had a show about it. We've talked about it, we've mentioned it, but we've never had a full show about this. Probably one of the more famous of the cryptids. Wouldn't you agree?
It's one that's definitely unique to the States.
Yep. And, it's the only cryptid that I know of that has a professional sports team named after it. And as you pointed out, there's some other maybe minor league teams.
Well, I'm sure there's schools and local colleges.
Yep. So we're talking about the Jersey Devil, or as some other people call it, the Leeds Devil. But we hadn't had a show about the Jersey Devil, and that's probably one of the more famous ones. I mean, obviously, Bigfoot's up there, probably the most famous. Maybe Loch Ness. I think Bigfoot's probably a little bit more famous than Loch Ness, but obviously those are your two top ones. Dogman's really coming on in popularity here lately, but Jersey Devil's got to be up there in the top 3 or 4 at the very least.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you just a little bit of backstory on the legend and the folklore, and then Johnny's gonna get into more of the nuts and bolts of the real stuff about the area and some of the things like that. So for those of you who don't know, in southern New Jersey and Philadelphia folklore in the United States, the Jersey Devil, also known as the Leeds Devil, is a legendary creature said to inhabit the forest of the Pine Barrens in South New Jersey. The creature is often described as a flying biped with hooves, but there are many variations. The common description is that of a bipedal, kangaroo-like, or wyvern-like creature with a horse or goat-like head, leathery bat-like wings, horns, small arms with clawed hands, legs with cloven hooves, and a forked or pointed tail. It has been reported to move quickly and is often described as emitting a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. Now that's kind of a description where I think that's kind of a mix of a lot of the descriptions, but the origin, it's where it came from, or the most famous. There's probably more than one, but probably the most famous origin. And I know you said this one really didn't kind of hold your attention, but this is the more famous of the folklores. Mother Leeds' 13th child. According to popular folklore, the Jersey Devil originated in the Pine Barrens with a Pine Barrens resident named Jane Leeds, known as Mother Leeds. The legend states that Mother Leeds had 12 children, and after discovering she was pregnant for the 13th time, cursed the child in frustration, declaring that the child would be the devil. In 1735, Mother Leeds was in labor on a stormy night while her friends gathered around her. Born as a normal child, the 13th child transformed into a creature with hooves and a goat head, bat wings, and a forked tail. Growling and screaming, the child beat everyone with its tail before flying up the chimney and heading into the pines. In some versions of the tale, Mother Leeds was supposedly a witch, and the child's father was the devil himself. Some versions of the legend also state local clergymen subsequently attempted to exorcise the creature from the Pine Barrens. So that's kind of
Yeah.
The-
yeah.
I mean, like I said, there's more variations of that, but for the most part, it was something to do with Mother Leeds and either cursing the child herself, or she was a witch and the devil was the father, or some form or variation of that. But there's a lot more to it than just that, and you kind of did a little deep dive into that today.
Yeah, I just checked into the topography of the place and the history of the land, and there's a huge conservation organization that's been dealing with this for quite a while. It seems like since the 90s. I mean, it's over 1 million acres. Can you imagine what you could hide in 1 million continuous acres?
Oh yeah, we've talked about that before, about how much national forest there is out there. So I think, what was the number, 88 million?
It was insane.
Yeah. So yeah, you can hide a lot in 1 million acres.
Yeah, and it's got a 17 trillion gallon aquifer that the Pine Barrens is kind of the home to.
That's an astronomical number.
It is. I mean, you got the Pinelands National Reserve, and somehow or another the UN got involved. Wink, wink.
Yeah, imagine that.
The International Biosphere Reserve is involved in it, and the New Jersey Pinelands Commission. It's just over 1 million acres, and it's never been molested. It has virgin timber on it from back when God said, "Let there be timber," and it's insane. This is like the land that time forgot. It's a little niche in the middle of who'da thunk it, New Jersey.
Yeah, in the middle of some of the places that, when you think of big cities, New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, those are some of the really big cities that I mean, obviously there's more on the West Coast too, but around here, you talk about big cities, that's what most people think of. So to have 1 million acres of untouched natural habitat, that's something you don't think. Most normal people wouldn't think about that, being in the middle of all that civilization.
It's just a huge chunk out of the southeastern side of Jersey. And Jersey ain't that big. But
so nobody lives, obviously, in this area, but there's a lot of rural homesteads. I don't know if homestead is the right word to use, but a lot of people live on the outskirts right around the area, and that's where a lot of the sightings have occurred, right?
yeah, and there's a plethora, that's the big word for the day, of,
Means a lot.
we're talking Bigfoot, Dogman, of course, Jersey Devil. There's been reptilian type stuff. There's tons of things that are seen in the Pine Barren. And then they're also talking about portals.
I was just about to ask, is there any kind of supernatural? I mean, I know some people classify Bigfoot and all that stuff supernatural. Obviously we take the stance of, until we find something that shows us otherwise, we take the stance that, Bigfoot's just a flesh and blood creature. But like orbs and portals and UFOs and things like that which I would say, from the folklore of the Jersey Devil, that would be supernatural in nature. I don't know that with that description of what you described it like, I don't know if I could say that that's just a flesh and blood creature.
Think about this. We're talking Puritan America.
Mm-hmm.
You know two things, God and devil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's say you saw a Dogman. He could jump really far and do amazing physical feats. He's got a long snout. He's got vertical ears. Oh, gee, horse head, horns,
Yeah, I can see that.
spring-heeled, Huh. So let's think of, I got away from the woo and looked for practical. And that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Yeah.
Not saying there isn't some crazy horse-headed, spring-heeled thing, going around doing chaos. But, the high-pitched screams, okay, well, we've heard Bigfoot recordings with high pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, some of the Nevada sounds had some of the high-pitched stuff in it, too. And that's one of the most famous Bigfoot vocalizations there are.
did I mention 1-point-something million acres unmolested?
Yes. Yeah, I think you did. You could hide a lot in there. Let me rephrase that. A lot could hide in there.
Yes. There could be a variety.
Yeah. Well, and that's not that far off from places like Michigan, where, the Dogman pretty much got its. Obviously, we know going back past, 99-ish, when the phrase Dogman was coined by
Linda
that.
Godfrey.
Yeah. Well, I know the DJ from Detroit's the one that coined that phrase. The Detroit Dogman, or the Michigan Dogman, rather. So, but before that, anything like that was Wolfman, Werewolf, Rougarou, Loup-garou, any of that kind of stuff. So, going with what you said earlier, if you think of, like we did the show on the Tennessee Wildman, you remember when we were talking about that, it was like 5 or 6 different descriptions, and we were like, well, maybe this is just like a convergence of a superhighway where there's, there's something in an area that just attracts all these different subspecies of Bigfoot. Well, what if these Pine Barrens is something for like maybe Dogman or something like that, and you get several different types? I mean, if the stories are true and there's multiple different types of Dogmans, the DA's one that he saw, he said it looked more like a Mastiff or Rottweiler, that type head. Then you got other people that are the German Shepherd, more of a wolf type thing. So, like you said, maybe the wolf type looks like could have looked like a horse. Well, maybe the quote unquote goat thing was maybe it was like a Mastiff or a Rottweiler type. Because if you're out in the middle of these dark woods and you saw something like that, I could see how that could maybe be at that time, when all these dog breeds were not as popular as they are now, where people have all these names for them, that you could see, or somebody could see that and say, oh, that looks like a goat. So, yeah, like you said, looking for the practical, maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is an area that's just
back to the portal thing. I wonder if we can get our tech support to do a Google on ley lines where they may intersect with.
Hey, that's a good point.
I was thinking about that earlier.
You all right, Johnny?
Oh, boy, I need one of them Luden's lozenges.
Are they made in New Jersey?
Yeah, I just ran out of time today. I was trying to look up, and there's a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, ley lines are all over the world, and there's a lot of weird stuff that happens around them. So it wouldn't surprise me if something like that was.
Let's see what parallel that's on.
So, like you said, looking for practical, real world, shall we say, explanations. In 1735, what animals, I'm not talking about cryptid wise, but what animals were known that could have been seen. Somebody, just said, "Oh, look at that." We had, obviously, bears were known, but how many bears are in New Jersey? Maybe there were some back then, but
There was an occasional black bear that would stray into there. I think out of the Pennsylvania area where they came from.
right. What about wolves? Did they have wolves in that area?
I haven't seen anything about wolves, but I wouldn't doubt it. Think about it. It's a virgin timber protected area.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's throw this out there then. You remember the picture you sent me a week or two ago of the deer with the chronic wasting disease?
Oh, God.
Well, now, I know that that's just something that we've really here recently been talking about, but who's to say that something like rabies or the chronic wasting disease or something like that wasn't happening back then, too?
I think the chronic wasting disease has been around for a very long time.
So
We just now came around with a retarded term to attach to it.
right. So if you saw that picture you sent me of that deer, if somebody saw that on a dark, stormy night in those Pine Barrens of New Jersey, that would scare the ever-loving you-know-what out of somebody. And that definitely looks demonic. So you got the horns, you got the sunken face. If it's all, if that was, the flesh around the face had already started to peel off or whatever, that's a very good caricature. There's your other big word for the day, caricature of some of that description that I read earlier.
Yeah, definitely.
What's saying about the ley lines?
There's one that passes through New York. It kind of northwest, comes out southeast of New York, which is just a little bit across the creek from.
I mean, that's not. Depending on how much power those things send off. I mean, that's, if it was 800 miles from the nearest ley line, I'd say, probably not but that's probably what, Tyler, would you say 60 miles or so? Yeah, that's a hop, skip, and a jump as far as that goes. Especially if you're talking about 1 million acres of, so maybe that, like we said, maybe there's something that draws them to that area. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, and of course, I'm looking for the 33rd parallel. It's well south of it. It's never a dull moment looking up, studying up on this stuff.
But I think that's why me and you started this thing in the first place. Is it's all these people that see things like this. It's not mass hysteria. It's not a mass illusion. It's not a mass hoax. There's something that people are seeing. And I love trying to figure out what it could be, what logical explanation it could be. Like I said, I'm not one that subscribes to the woo, but I'm also not one that's going to say it's 100% impossible for it to be something like that. But I like the investigation part of it to figure out what it could be first, and then if I can't answer it that way, then let's keep going and figure out what this is and where it came from.
Definitely. I'd love to get there because when you think of Jersey, you just don't think of a big, beautiful, lush
I mean,
landscape. It's so dense that hikers went missing back in the late 90s. It was a husband and wife. They literally lived in a neighborhood bordering the Barrens. And it was common for them to get on their little ATVs, whether it was a side by side or four wheelers, whatever. But they went out in the woods and they disappeared. It was weeks later, numerous attempts now during these weeks, and they couldn't find them. They used drones, they used military, they used thermal, they used search and rescue. Couldn't find anything. Came back with a special drone about 3 weeks into it, and they found them within 200 yards of their house. And that had been searched on foot numerous times. And they were laying side by side, and their four-wheeler, or ATV as it was said, was literally 15 to 30 feet away. Just sitting there parked, and they were laying down next to each other, like they just laid down, went to sleep, and died.
200 yards from the house.
200 yards from the house. Military, there was LEOs, there were first responders, there was search and rescue was involved, and
Well, I'm assuming they had dogs too.
oh, of course.
So,
They brought in the canines.
Let's err on the side of, okay, maybe humans could miss that. Maybe.
Well, they say it's so dense that just you can walk almost fingertip to fingertip and miss things.
Right. And so that's what I'm going to say, humans might could miss something like that.
But two humans in a four-wheeler,
But the dogs aren't going to miss that.
no. They said the dogs ran in circles.
Yeah. Coming from somebody who was a canine handler at one time, I know how these working dogs work. I know how they operate. That is their sole purpose in life, because it's a game to them. They want to make their handler happy. They want to get their treat or whatever, whatever the reward is. They're reward driven. These dogs are not. You don't just go pick a dog just on, oh, that dog looks cool. I think no, dogs are. They got to have a high prey drive. They got to want to work, because dogs are like people. They've got personalities just like we do. So you got a litter of 5 dogs. You may have 3 of them that are excellent, and 2 of them that never make it in something like that, because they're all different. So if a dog has made it through all that, there are no bad dogs. There's only bad handlers. So if the dogs missed it, it was because the handlers pulled them off of it. It wasn't because the dogs missed anything. So I would say that there's something ain't stirred in the Kool-Aid with that one. Either you got really bad handlers that just don't know what they're doing, or those bodies were not there when they started.
Bingo.
Yeah, and I mean that would be what I would lean towards.
And that kind of goes back to your whole portal theory.
Well, I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yes. Stranger things.
I believe that's the name of a show too, isn't it?
Yeah, but it don't have commercials.
So, I watched. I want to say it was on Discovery, maybe, but it was one of those shows where may have even been Monster Quest. I can't remember, but it was on the Jersey Devil, and there was I think it was maybe 200-300 yards from the border of the Pine Barrens. It wasn't like right on top of it, but it was fairly close. I mean, they could look out their back and see where the Pine Barrens started. And it was during a snowstorm, because there was a lot of snow on the ground. I want to say they said it was like 3 feet. It was deep. And the guy said he had his dog in the house. The dog started going crazy. I mean, just ballistic. So he's thinking, okay, there's a fox or rabbit or something out there that the dog's going crazy about. He goes and looks at the sliding glass door, looks out, and the dog is just barking and going crazy, but there's nothing out there. So he steps back and kind of looks at the dog, and the dog is like, pawing at the sliding glass door, but it's kind of looking up, like it's looking up on the roof. Well, about that time, he hears something. You don't know what it is, but he heard something. He's like, it's getting dark. He said, I'm not going out there. I'll wait till in the morning. It didn't snow overnight. The snow was already on the ground. He goes out the next morning, and there's a trail of footprints, a bipedal trail, set of 2 footprints, walking up over his house to the back side, or to the front side of the house. But that's it. Nothing in the snow leading up to the house, just at the edge of the roof and walking up over the eave of the roof. Then he goes around to the other side and nothing. So like whatever it was, flew in, landed on his roof, walked up to the eave, maybe looked around, and then flew off. That's the way I took it anyway. So probably a good idea he didn't go out there that night.
So do we have like a dogodactyl?
Well, I mean, it said it had bat wings as some of the, but it could be a dogodactyl. Could be, a dog man with wings, and that's really scary.
I didn't know my ex-wife was up there.
You trying to keep up with Northwoods? Because I'm sure Northwoods would have said something pretty close to that.
Okay, so we're not seeing ley lines. We're not seeing the 33rd parallel. Huh.
Well, I'd say it's close enough to ley lines to throw that in as a possibility. Maybe not the 33rd parallel, but 60 miles from the nearest ley line. That's not that. I mean, that's pretty close considering how much energy those things are supposed to emit.
Yeah, and I guess it really depends on that aquifer.
Yeah.
Because we know water.
Yeah. Water's got a lot of sway and all that stuff too. And that's a lot of water.
Yeah, definitely. It's never underestimate your
I've always heard the stories about the Jersey Devil. I've heard the sightings and things like that, but honestly, I really didn't know. I think even Finding Bigfoot went out there one time because there's, like you said, there's a lot of Bigfoot. But I don't think that they really ever hit on how big that area was. If they did, I just didn't.
Well, Finding Bigfoot came in after some local investigators did their thing. And they came in and did what Hollywood normally does.
Yeah.
They ruined it. The people that actually had the encounters and had the footage and had pictures, they got cut. So Bobo and Moneymaker, and I'm not like shade on Bobo because everybody likes Bobo, but Moneymaker, whoever does the editing, they cut out 3 or 4 very key people that are locals to the area that had tons of concrete experiences, recordings, video, pictures. They had evidence. And they got cut for the, oh my God, let's go do a bullshit tree knocking. Oh, let's make all this racket. And the real investigators did not do that.
Yeah.
The one guy that I was really following up on, he was from Long Island. He went to week 1, did an investigation. Couldn't make it back to week 2. Now, they had results. He couldn't make it back to week 2. And they would do a post-op and go through your evidence. Well, he couldn't make it, logistics. But he came back on week 3. And they had way more. They didn't go do the investigation. They stayed in the campground as campers. It's like role-playing.
Yeah.
You're either investigating or you're a camper. He played camper and had great results. And I haven't finished it yet. I ran out of time. But, yeah, Finding Bigfoot, as usual, just like anything Hollywood production. They're going to come in, somebody that don't know, they're not involved in the actual science of it. They're just editing for clicks. They ruined it.
Yeah. Well, all those shows or for entertainment purposes. Like you said, that's why I love watching stuff that Adam has been in. Because if you've ever listened to Adam Davies talk, Adam has a true passion for going out and finding this stuff. That's why he goes to places like, China and Mongolia and all these places he's been to. He goes out and spends, weeks at a time in these places, but you don't ever see a whole lot of shows because that's boring to these people. That's not going to sell views. But somebody like Adam's going to be the one that's going to find something because he goes out. It's just like Les Stroud. He goes out and with just his cameras that he carries, no camera crew, he goes out and spends 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks at a time just out there looking, listening, being quiet.
Les always came across as a genuine guy, and he has like the ugliest, crudest show out there. But to me, it's the best show out there.
Right. Back when all that stuff started, they always, tried to compare him and Bear Grylls and all that stuff. But it was a different type of show. Bear Grylls was the Hollywood, and nothing against Bear. He is a tremendous.
He's a Brit Commando.
Yeah, he knows his stuff, but he was a presenter for a TV show. Les was out there showing, hey, I'm just a normal guy. If I can get out here and I can survive in this stuff, anybody can. If you know what you're doing, if you just pay a little bit of attention to what I'm telling you is something that's going to keep you alive. Now, same, a lot of the stuff that Bear was telling you was going to protect you too and keep you alive, but it was more sensationalized.
Well, Bear taught me how to pee through a dirty sock and, get hydrated.
Yeah, that's good, good knowledge to have. But there again, I guess it's all in what you like or what's going to interest you. If you really want to know the stuff, because if you don't have the high level training that Bear Grylls has, you don't need to be in the places that he's at.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Les was one of the places that normal people could find themselves stranded or lost in. That's what I liked about that. He's just out in the woods somewhere in Wyoming that 90% of the everyday people could be in. And I think that's a lot of the problem with these shows is they don't tell people what they're doing. You get that little disclaimer at the end, or at the beginning rather, that there's always professionals here and, blah, 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 blah. Well, Les is out there by himself with all his camera crew.
Exactly.
He don't have a crew standing by in case he gets bit by the snake,
He was like naked and afraid without any backup or being naked.
No, exactly. But that's why I like his Bigfoot specials, because he goes about the same way he did his survival stuff. He's out there just himself, whatever camera equipment he can pack in, whatever food he can pack in, whatever shelter material he can pack in. If he can't pack it in, he's going to build his own shelter. But whereas Bear might be out in the woods for a day, 2, and then going back to the hotel at night, other than maybe that one night that they're going to film him spending the night, when Les goes out there, he's out there until he gets back. Yeah. And, DA and Doc and I had this discussion, and I think me and you have even had this discussion. Yeah, there's the chance encounters. Like you and I had an encounter when we were just out there for a couple of hours. But for the most part, you're not going to get really good results unless you're out there for a while.
The golden rule is what, 5 days?
Yeah, something like that.
They climatize to you.
Yeah. If you go into an area that's kind of a hot spot, like the area you and I go to, that you're going to have a higher chance. But you're not just, most people that go out there, they're not just going to go out and walk down a hiking trail and see something, because these things are not going to just pop out just by chance. I mean, sometimes it happens. I mean, you do have those odd occasions. But I think that's why, sightings were so much more prevalent back then, because people lived out in the middle of nowhere. And so they were, like you said, they were acclimatized to them. So it was, and then, modern civilization happens and these things pull back into the outskirts and the boonies and, the uncharted territory. And then you have something like the Black Plague of the 21st century that happens. And people are out of the woods for 3 years. They move back into different areas. Then all of a sudden there's people back. That's why these sightings are popped back up again. And that's why you see more sightings now.
Yeah.
My opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you on that. Had to get rid of the plague, though.
Yeah.
We got to get back up to the hot spot.
Yeah, we do. I don't know if we'll be able to get back up there before we do our other thing, though. Maybe we can.
I'll make it a point to go do a little recon between now and then.
Yeah. Because I'm really getting excited about our other thing.
That's going to be a blast.
Yeah. And I got to talk to that. Matter of fact, I'm going to send him a message after we leave here tonight. Make sure everything's good on his end. Because I told you there's going to be another expedition in the area at the same time.
Oh, I saw that yesterday. I heard Jesse and them talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it's a chance to go to a place that you and I have talked about wanting to go to, and
the guy from Long Island that was in the Pine Barrens, when he got bumped, they were on their first deal. They got bumped, so a higher profile could inspect area A, B, or C, whatever the hell it was. He got bumped. They got relegated to go somewhere remote. Like, man, this sucks. Dude, he had interactions where he was at.
Yeah.
Where the super all rock star team was. He had an interaction, but it was minimal.
Or it could have been manufactured too.
Bingo, because there was other groups there.
Mm-hmm.
But his was substantial and it was remote. So that's fine. We'll let the A team do whatever.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, me too. Because chances of something happening, they're going to happen in the more remote area, more than likely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So, we're doing on time. All right. Well, Johnny, got anything else any more knowledge you want to drop about the Pine Barrens?
That's about all I got. I mean, it was missing people. It's so dense you can't search it. 1 point something million acres, and stay the hell out. How about that?
There was one that reminded me. I was going to ask you when we got off on another topic. Has any of the missing 411 been linked to any of that?
I have not. That's one road I didn't go down. I don't own Pilates books, and I didn't do any Googles for 411.
Tyler, can you check that right quick?
I was actually doing my Googles 911. That's when I found, different things.
Yeah.
Things from a pre-cell phone all the way till 2010s. Some of the stories were exhaustive. Some of the stories were just cliff notes. But the old couple's what got me.
Yeah.
200 yards from their house, searched multiple times. 2 weeks later,
On ground that they'd already walked over several times.
like a staged scene. Talking a piece of equipment and 2 human bodies.
Let's see. It says two mafia guys from New Jersey trying to collect a gambling debt took a Russian out to bury him, and he tried to escape. One of the men from New Jersey shot him, but not sure if he was killed. He's supposedly haunting the Pine Barrens looking for help.
There was a ton of mafia links about. There was even an episode in The Sopranos
Really?
about them dumping bodies out in the Pine Barrens because it's so voodoo hoodoo that nobody's going to go look because everybody's scared of because the reputation of the Pine
Yeah.
Barrens.
I mean, and the mafia probably would foster that to keep it.
And I never watched one episode of The Sopranos, so.
No, I didn't either.
But I did see that pop up. Doing my Googles.
That'd be something good to kind of look into, the missing 411, because we've overlaid all those maps, and that's the other question. Is there any cave systems around there?
Cave systems, deep underground military bases, which they go hand in hand.
Yeah. Well, anytime you got those national parks, that stuff is there.
There are some scary map overlays.
I might have to get in touch with Jessica and see if she could do a remote viewing of that. I don't know if she's ever done one of the Pine Barrens. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. And I'd be really surprised if she hasn't.
She probably has. I just don't know if she has or not. So I'll have to text her and see if she's done that. And if not, that might be a good target for her to. And maybe we'll do a part 2 of this.
Maybe she could look into that couple.
Yeah.
Not just remote view the area, that incident.
Tyler says there's 4 cave systems in the Pine Barrens that are known, at least. So I think we come back and do a part 2 of this. Talk with Jessica and then look into the missing 411s and overlay them and see. I think we need to do a part 2 of this one.
Sounds good to me. We'll get back to it in 5 to 10 business years.
We'll try to do it quicker than that, but who knows with us.
No, it sounds good though. I mean, I had no idea about the cave system because none of that pops up in Wikipedia or Google Earth. None of that pops up. I wonder. I'm not sure why.
Well, my curiosity has definitely been piqued.
Yeah, a little deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yep. Always fun to go deep down the rabbit hole. All right, folks. Well, that's all we got about the Jersey Devil tonight. Jersey. I wonder if he's from Hoboken.
Oh boy, Hoboken.
All right. Well, folks, if you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on our email at what'sreallyouthere2022@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us on our Facebook page, What's Really Out There, our YouTube channel, What's Really Out There. Catch this podcast on all the main podcasting apps, off Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon, all that stuff. All the big podcasting platforms. Somebody's always monitoring the website or the email. So if you got a story you want us to look into, you want to shoot us an email. If you've got an encounter yourself that you want us to talk about, we'd love to hear that. Johnny and I have been talking about doing an email show, but we got to have some emails before we can do that. So if anybody's got any emails they want us to get into, send them to us. What's Really Out There 2022@gmail.com. Or you can, it has carrier pigeons.
Yeah, carrier pigeons. Yeah, It's been too overcast for the smoke signals.
Yeah. What about the teletype? Or the telegraph,
It's
rather?
been so windy, the tumbleweeds keep hitting the teletype wires.
Oh, okay.
It's just out.
All right.
Carrier pigeons are great, though.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, that's all we got for this show. I guess we'll catch you next time in the cabin.
We'll see you then.
See you later.